This is a Revise With Me video on adding and subtracting fractions. When you're adding and subtracting fractions, the denominators need to be the same. So the bottom numbers need to be the same. So in my first example, I've got 4 and 12 as my denominators. To get them both the same, you want to think of your 4 times table and think of your 12 times table. So you want to think of the multiples of 4 and the multiples of 12. And what is the lowest common multiple? So what is in the 4 times table and the 12 times table? So once you've thought of that, 12 is in both of their times table. So I want the denominators to both be 12. Now for this fraction, the denominator is already 12, so that stays as 1 over 12. But for this fraction, the denominator is 4, but we want it to be 12. So we think, what do we times 4 by to get 12? We would times it by 3. So to get the top new number, we do 3 times our 3 to get 9. So now we can add our fractions. So 9 twelfths add 1 twelfth is 10 over 12. So it's important you don't add your denominator. We can then simplify this by now thinking of the factors of 10 and 12. So what number goes into 10 and 12? So the highest number that goes into 10 and 12 is 2. So we need to divide both of the numbers by 2. So 10 divided by 2 is 5, and 12 divided by 2 is 6. So simplified is 5 over 6. Next one. So again, we can't subtract them until our denominators are the same. So we think of the multiples of 5 and we think of the multiples of 7, and what is the lowest common multiple? So the number that is in both of their times table. So both number in their times table is 35. So that appears in both of them. So neither of them are 35, so we're going to have to times both of them. So 5 times what is 35? I would do 5 times 7. So I've got to do 3 times 7 to get the top number of 21. And then 7 times what is 35? Well, it's 5. So I need to do 2 times 5 to get 10. And now we can subtract them. So 21 take away 10, or 21 over 35 take away 10 over 35 gives me 11 over 35. So to simplify, you need to think of your factors of 11 and 35, and the highest common factor of 11 and 35 is 1, so we can't simplify 11 and 35. So work out as a simplified fraction 5/6 take away a half. So we need to look at our denominators 6 and 2. Think of your 6 times table, think of your 2 times table, and what number is in both of them. So we know that 6 is in both of them. So this one is already over 6, so that stays as 5 over 6. But 2 times what is 6? We need to change this fraction, so 2 times 3 is 6. So we need to do 1 times 3 as well, so that's 3. Now we can take them away. So 5 over 6 take away 3 over 6, bottom stays as a 6. We could do 5 take away 3, which is 2/6. So to simplify it, think of your factors of 2 and 6. So what number can go into 2 and into 6? So 2 can go into both of those numbers. So we can divide by 2. So 2 divided by 2 is 1, and 6 divided by 2 is 3. So it simplifies to 1/3. So again, we need to think of our multiples of 4 and multiples of 5. So what number is in the 5 times table and the 4 times table? And that number will be 20. So the bottom number now has to be 20, so we're changing them into our equivalent fractions. So 4 times what is 20? So 4 times 5. So we're going to do 3 times 5, which is 15. And then 5 times what is 20? So how do you get from 5 to 20? You need to times by 4. 2 times 4 is 8. So now we can subtract them. 15 take away 8 is 7, so the top number is going to be 7, and the bottom number stays as 20. You can see if you can simplify it, but the highest common factor of 7 and 20 is 1, so we can't simplify 7 over 20. So with the next one, we think of our 4 times table and we think of our 9 times table and what number is in both of those times table, and you should get 36. So neither of the numbers are 36, so we do 4 times what is 36? 4 times 9. So we need to do 3 times 9 to get the top number, which is 27. 9 times what is 36? Let's times by 4. So we need to do 2 times 4, which is 8, to get the top number, and then we can add our numbers. So the bottom number is going to stay as 36, and then 27 add 8 is 35. And again, no numbers go into 35 and 36, so that stays as 35 over 36. Next one, we think of our 11 times table. Think of your 3 times table. What number is in the 11 and the 3 times table? It's going to be 33. So how do we go from 11 to 33? We need to times it by 3, so we also need to do the 7 times the 3 to get 21. How do you go from 3 to 33? We would times that by 11, so we need to do 2 times 11, which is 22, and then we can add them. So 21 add our 22 gives us 43 over 33. So we can see here that we have an improper fraction. So an improper fraction is where our top number is bigger, so our numerator is bigger than the denominator. So our question has asked us to write it into a mixed number. That means we want one number and a fraction. So to do that, we think of how many times does 33 go into 43. So we will only fit in there once, so the big number will be 1. And then our fraction, the bottom will stay as 33, and then it's how many remainder on top. So if 33 can go into 43 once, there will be 13 left over. No, there won't. There will be 10 left over. I forgot about the 3. So once you take 33 away from 43, which is 30, and then which is 10, which was that be the remainder on my days. Okay, so we got to work out 1 and 2/5 add 2 and 1/2. Give your answer as a mixed number. So with this we can do the numbers and the fractions separately. So I know that 1 plus 2 is 3, so I know the big number is going to be 3. But let's see what our other fractions are. So we're going to do 2/5 add 1/2. So I'm going to think of my 5 times table and my 2 times table. What's in my 5 times table and 2 times table? So 10 is going to be in both of their times table. So 5 times what is 10? So it's 2. So I go do 2 times 10 as well. Not 2 times 10. 2 times 2 as well, which is 4. 2 times what is 10 is 5. So if I do 1 times 5 as well, which is 5, then I can add those together. So 4/10 add 5/10 is 9 over 10ths. So my answer is going to be 3 and 9/10. Okay, so we've got 4/3 take away 3/4. 4/9. Give your answer as a fraction. So for this one, we can do 4 take away 3, which is 1. Then we've got 1/3 take away 4/9. So I think of my 3 times table and my 9 times table. One number is in the 3 times table and the 9 times table, so it's 9. So the bottom numbers can be 9. This one is already bottom number 9, so that can stay the same. But how do I go from 3 to 9? I would times by 3. So I've got 3/9 take away 4/9. Well, we can't do that. So we're going to have to come back to our number 1. So because we would be left with 4 take away 3 gives me 1, I'd actually be left with 1 1/3 take away 4/9. So we're going to have to add a whole to our 3/9. So when we add a whole, 1 whole would be 9 out of the 9. So we can add 3 and 9 to get 12. So this changes to 12/9 take away 4/9. Now we can complete it. So 12 take away our 4 leaves me with 8, and the 9 stays the same. So we're left with 8/9. So all we did was add that 1 whole. Because our denominator is 9 out of 9 is 1 whole. In a bag there are red, green and purple counters. 3/8 of the counters are red, 1/6 of the counters are green. What fraction of the counters are purple? So if we've already got 3/8 and we've already got 1/6, if we add those together and then take it away from 1, we'll be able to see how many purple we've got. So we need to add these fractions. We've got bottom number 8, bottom number 6. We think of our 8 times table, think of our 6 times table, and what number goes into both of them. So there is a couple of numbers, but 24 is our lowest, so we'll go with 24. So 8 times what is 24? So 3. So we need to times the 3 by the 3, which is 9. 6 times what is 24? We go times that by 4. 1 times 4 is 4, and then we can add those together. So 9 add 4 is 13, so we've got 13 out of 24. So if 13 out of 24 are the red and the green, the rest have to be purple. So is how many would you add to 13 to get 24? So we would add 11. So 11 have to be out of the 24, have to be purple. Matthew is training for a race. He runs 3 days in 1 week. Matthew runs 1.5 miles on Monday. He runs 1 2/3 miles on Thursday, and he finally runs 2 1/5 miles on Sunday. Work out how far Matthew ran in total. So we've got to do 1.5, add 1 2/3, add 2 1/5. So we can do our numbers and fractions separately if you want, or you can change them into mixed numbers and then add them into improper fractions and then add them. It doesn't make any difference, you'll still end up with the same answer. So if we add the numbers first, we got 1, add the 1, add the 2, so that's 4. Then I can do the half, add the 2/3, add the 1/5. Just because we're adding 3 fractions doesn't mean we're doing anything different than usual. So we think of our 2, 3 and 5 times table, and we need a number that is in all of them. So think of 3, 2 and 5 times table, that's probably going to be 30. It's the only number I can think of. So 2 times what is 30? 2 times 15. So 1 times 15 is 15. 3 times what is 30? 3 times 10, so 2 times 10 is 20. 5 times what is 30? 5 times 6, so 1 times 6 is 6. Then we can add them all together, so we got 20, add 15, add 6, which gives me 41 out of 30. So we've got an improper fraction here. So how many times does 30 go into 41? Once. And then how many left over? We'd have 11 out of the 30. So we did split our numbers. We had the 4 and the 1 and 3, 1 and the 11 over 30. That will get us 5 and 11 30ths. Okay, so Martin is walking from Antrim to Randalstown. So we got to work out the distance from Antrim to Randalstown. Okay, so if this is 3 and 3 1/3 miles this way, this is 1 and 3/4 that way, all we need to do is add those fractions. We've got 1 and 3/4, add 3 and 1/3. Going to do this one a little bit differently, where we change them into improper fractions first, just so you can see it a little bit different. So 1 and 3/4, well, 1 whole would be the 4 out of the 4. Add our 3, so we do 1 times the 4 is 4, add our 3, so we get 7 out of 4 as an improper fraction. 3 lots of the 3 is our 9, add our 1s, we got 10 out of the 3. So that's how you change them back into improper. Now we need to think of our 4 times table, think of our 3 times table, what number is in both of them. So 12 is in both of them. So how do we go from 4 to 12? We times by 3. 7 3s are 21. 3 times what is 12? So 3 times 4, so 10 times 4 is 40. And then we can add them up. So we got 21, add the 40 is 61 over 12. Now we need to change this into an improper, change the improper fraction into a mixed number. So how many times does 12 go into 60? Well, we know that's 5, with 1 left over, and the bottom stays as 12. Okay, so now we've got to work out the distance from Randalstown to Toome. So Toome was 9 1/4, and Randalls is 1 3/4. So if we subtract those, we can get the distance between them. So we're going to do 9 1/4, subtract 1 3/4. So again, we're going to change them into mixed, from mixed numbers to improper fractions. So we've got the 9 lots of the 4, that's 36. Add our 1 is 37 out of 4. And we're going to subtract the 1 lot of the 4 is 4. Add our 3, which is 7 out of 4. So we can do 37, take away our 7 is 30 over 4. I mean, you could just divide by 4 now, or we can change it into a mixed number. So how many times does 4 go into 30? That's 7. And how many would be left over? 2 out of the 4. We can simplify 4 to 1/2, so it's 7.5 miles. Hannah is baking 2 cakes. 1 cake needs 1 1/3 cups of milk. She has 1 1/4 cups of milk. How much more milk does she need? So we can take those away. We can do 1 1/3, take away what she's already got, we should be left with how much she needs. So if we change them into an improper fraction, we can do 1 lot of the 3 is 3, add our 1 to get 4/3. 1 lot of the 4 is 4, add our 1 is 5/4. So we think of our 3 times table, think of our 4 times table. What number goes into both of them? It's 12. So 3 times what is 12? 3 times 4. 4 4s are 16. 4 times what is 12? It's 3. 5 times 3 is 15. So we can do 16. Take away our 15. Gives us 1/12. So she needs 1/12 more. So she wants to attach a ribbon around her wardrobe. How much more does she need? Give your answer as a fraction. So she has 4 already, so I'm assuming she wants it around the whole of her wardrobe, so all of her perimeter. So this side would also be 1 3/4, and this side would also be 2/3. So we basically need to add all those up. So we've got 2/3, add 1 3/4, add our 2/3, add our 1 3/4. Let's change the 1 3/4 into an improper fraction. So we've got 1 lot of the 4, that's 4, add our 3, that's 7. So we've got 2/3, add 7/4, add our 2/3, add our 7/4. So we need to know what number goes into the 3 and 4 times table. It's going to be 12. So how do we go from 3 to 12? We would times by 4. 2 times 4 is 8. How do you go from 4 to 12? You would times by 3. So 3 times 7 is 21. And they would be exactly the same. So we got 21, add 8, add our 8, add our 21, which gives us 42, 50, 58/12. So now we need to go, how many 12s go into 58? So it's going to be 4, because 4 12s are 48, with 10 left over out of our 12. So if she's already got the 4 meters, that's 4 here. So she needs 10 out of 12 left. She needs 10 out of 12 more, but we can simplify that fraction by dividing them both by 2, which is 5/6.